Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled in a valley next to a river, a little girl looked at the moon in awe. It glistened, outshining the stars. A bright white halo circled the moon. It was beautiful. She was drawn to the moon. It was so familiar. The moon brightened the night sky. It had the power to flood the land with water from the oceans and was a deciding factor between abundance and famine. It fascinated him. "Nkosazana, come back inside," her mother called out to her. The little princess took a last glance at the moon, then walked back into her mother's heart. Over the river, in the savannah, another girl sat at the foot of her doorstep. A cold breeze washed over her face. The gentle sound of grass dancing in the wind calmed the night. The calm of the night was occasionally disturbed by a hooting owl and a laughing hyena. A beautiful full moon peeked through the peaks of two nearby mountains. It was a sight to behold, but she could not see it. She was blind. Regardless, she had a great appreciation of the beauty of that night. She took a deep breath, stood up, and walked back into her hut. She crawled into her mother's bed and fell asleep. That night, something about the moon stirred feelings in the hearts of the two girls. The prophecy had been set into motion. At that time, they did not know it, but their lives had been entwined from birth. A decade earlier, on a night when the blood moon graced the skies, a scream rang through the royal court. The queen was giving birth in a hut full of maid servants. Soon, the River King would finally have a child. He was not there to observe the birth of his child. In his old age, he did not have the appetite for such sentimental moments. He had gone through the fast previously. He had 3 wives before this one. All raised his hopes, and all of them did not fail to disappoint him. Some babies were stillborn, some did not reach full term, and most cruelly, many did not live longer than a few minutes. It was an open secret. Very few kings of the River Kingdom had heirs, and the paternity of the living heirs was always under question. They called it the curse of Maqhinga, a trickster king who caused the death of his 2 brothers. The village idiot often mumbled about how the king of old still walked the earth, and how the cursed king snatched each of the River Kingdom's royal children at birth for generations, so that he would not walk alone. A dim candle lit the midwife's face. The queen exhaled. The hardest part was over and the deed was done. The midwife looked at the baby. The baby did not cry. Her heart sank. Her mother had been the royal midwife, and her mother before her. But instead of bringing life to the world, all they did was observe death and misery. She wrapped the silent child in cloth and hastily sent the maidservants out of the hut. A tear rolled down her cheek. You'd think years of doing this would make her numb to the pain. But a mother's unmeasurable pain of losing a child got to her all the time. The queen looked on. No one said anything, but everyone knew. As the midwife walked away with the baby in her arms, she saw its chest move. "It's alive! The baby is alive!" the midwife exclaimed. The queen sat up. She could not believe her ears. But she's quiet. Why isn't she crying? The queen said. The midwife looked at the child and listened to her lungs. Her breathing was normal, but she did not cry. To think of it, her eyes were also closed. What is wrong with my baby? Cried the queen. Nothing, it seems, replied the midwife. She had never seen anything like it. She gave the baby a good slap, but still nothing. The child was dumb and blind. But this did not deter the queen. She stretched out her arms and gently took her baby. My little princess, you are perfect. I will call you Nkosazana. The baby's skin was soft. Her little hands grabbed the edge of the cloth. She looked peaceful and beautiful. The queen was overwhelmed with love. She would rain love on her baby and protect her all her life. When all was said and done, she realized the king would never see their child in the same light. His eyes would only see the flaws, but that was not it. Her baby was whole and perfect. The king's history in similar situations left a lot to be desired. He burned his first wife at the stake after he accused her of being a barren witch. He hanged his second after a miscarriage. He claimed she was cursed. The third wife realized that she had to bear the king a child to keep her life. However, the baby she bore for the king bore incredible resemblance to one of the royal guards. She lost her head. A blind and dumb child would not hold favor with the king. The queen had to do something. But what? How could she hide something that was so obvious? But that was a struggle for another day. Today was perfect. She had her child, and that was all that mattered. A servant called for the midwife. Another child was about to be born in the servants' quarters, and her services were required. The midwife took a last look at the queen as she left the room. This was one of the most magical moments she had ever witnessed. A true test of a mother's love. She took a deep breath as she stepped outside. She looked at the sky, and there it was, a blood-red moon. The midwife remembered the mumblings of the village fool. He spoke of a goddess from the moon, how the goddess died in the cruelest of conditions. He spoke of a prophecy. There would be a blind and dumb child born during a blood moon. A curse and a blessing, a destiny to be fulfilled. Two lives tangled from birth. That was nonsense, she thought. She quickly dismissed the idea as the mumblings of a madman and walked away. She had another child to deliver.